Welcome to the new topic. Please copy this all into your workbook. The topic is called trigonometry. It's chapter 3 of the textbook, and today we will do exercise 3E, trig ratios. What can you tell me about this triangle? Have a think. What do you know about it? What's this here? It's a right angle. So this is a right angle triangle. So everything we look at in trigonometry, it's always to do with right angled triangles. So you might remember from Pythagoras, but when we're labeling a right angled triangle, this here is my hypotenuse. Let's call it H. So the hypotenuse is the longest side and it's opposite the right angle. So let's quickly practice labeling the hypotenuse for each of these triangles. So remember, the longest side opposite the right angle. So this is going to be my hypotenuse. And with the next triangle, this is going to be my hypotenuse. I'm going to show you how to label the whole triangle. So we already know this is a hypotenuse. This little symbol down here, this is an angle. We call the side opposite that angle the opposite side. So that's because it is opposite the angle. And we call the third side down here adjacent. That's basically a fancy word that means next to. So it's next to the angle. On the next slide, I'll show you a trick to work out easily which side is which. Alright, I'll show you my trick. The first thing we'll do though is we'll just label the hypotenuse because we already know that. So now we need to label the opposite side, and this is my trick. So if you put your finger on the angle, you will never be able to touch the opposite side. So if this is my hand and I've put it on the angle, you will never be able to touch the opposite side. So I can touch this side here, which is a hypotenuse, and I can touch this side here, but I will never be able to touch the opposite side. So that must mean this side over here, this is my opposite, which leaves the last side down here, the adjacent side. Alright, so let's practice. The first thing I'm going to do is label my hypotenuse, longest side over here opposite the right angle. I'm just going to use the letter H this time. Then I put my hand on the angle here. And I'm never going to touch the opposite side. So I can touch this side here, but I can't touch the opposite side, which leaves the last one adjacent. Next triangle here, first thing I'll do, put in the hypotenuse, which is here, then put my hand on the angle. So I know that this means I can touch these two sides, but I can't touch the opposite, which is over here, which leaves the last side, the adjacent. Alright, do another one. Label the hypotenuse first, then put the hands on the angle, which means this over here is the opposite side, and the last one adjacent. This triangle here, label first the hypotenuse, longest side opposite the right angle, put my finger on the angle, and can't touch the opposite side, which is over here, and that leaves this side here to be the adjacent side. Throughout this topic, we will use the trig ratios. These are as follows: sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse, cos, which is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan, which is opposite over adjacent. So we remember these using the phrase SO, or the S, the O and the H, CA, C-A-H, and TOA, T-O-A. So SO, CA, TOA. One of my old students used to say suck my toe, but that's not it. It's SO, CA, TOA. It's important that you only label the given sides of a triangle, so sides that have information on it, like a number or a letter. For instance, with this triangle here, I would only label this side because it's got information, and this side here, the given sides. Let's have a go with SO, CA, TOA, which means sine, cos, and tan. So this triangle here already has its given sides labelled. So we've got an O and an A. Which of these has an O and an A in it? SO doesn't, CA doesn't, but TOA has an O and an A. So that means that this triangle here is tan. Our next triangle, it has an A and an H. So which of these has an A and an H in it? SO doesn't, CA does, A and an H. So this triangle is going to be cos. And our last triangle here, it's got an O and an H. So SO has O and an H. So this triangle will be sine. Let's practice deciding which ratio. So up the top here, I would write SO, CA, TOA. And we're going to use this to decide which one. So this first triangle here, I've got to label the sides. It hasn't already been labelled for us. So if I put my hand on the angle, which in this case is 44, I won't ever be able to touch the opposite side. So that must mean this is the opposite side. The hypotenuse doesn't have any information, so I won't label it. And this is the adjacent side. So if I've got O and A, that is going to be tan. Alright, our next triangle, I'm going to label the sides with information. So I can see that this is the hypotenuse. And if I put my hand on the angle, I'll never touch the opposite side. So the opposite side doesn't have any information on it. So that must mean this here is the adjacent side. So if I've got A and H, that is cos. And then our last one, I can see the hypotenuse has information. And if I put my hand on the angle, I won't be able to touch the opposite side. So that makes this the opposite side. So if I've got O and H, I'm going to use sine. Do you guys think you need more practice? I'll do these last two, then you can get started. So at the top of the page somewhere, write SO, CA, and TOA. Alright, so with this first triangle here, I'm going to just label the given sides, the sides with information. So we've got our hypotenuse, and this side over here is the opposite. So if I've got O and H, that's going to be sine. And my next triangle, I'm going to label it. If I put my finger on the angle, I won't touch the opposite side, so this is opposite. The hypotenuse doesn't have any information, and this is the adjacent side. So O and A, that is tan, TOA. Okay, so for today there's a worksheet to practice labelling the triangles.